Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Valeri McLaughlin, and welcome to the Intuitive Heart Healer podcast. The intention of this podcast is to be of service with love, to help you to understand your energy, your psychic senses, to tap into your heart centers, and to live through your hearts so you can connect greater to spirit. I am your host, Valeri McLaughlin, intuitive heart healer, energy artist, and spiritual guide. I help people connect to their heart centers, to connect greater with spirit and live through their heart, being guided by spirit, their intuition, living a life full of happiness and joy. And for the first podcast, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey through getting in touch with my heart center and the things that I went through that helped me be the person that I am. And I am grateful for every step that I have taken through life, no matter how challenging they may have been, because with every step, I've gained so much wisdom and knowledge. And it really has helped me become the person I am. So, as a young child, I made a subconscious decision to become invisible, to be able to be in a room and not be seen. And there was a few reasons why this has happened. And one is I wasn't comfortable with me and who I was. I wasn't comfortable with the spiritual gifts that I had and still have to this day. And I didn't understand fully everything that I was feeling and going through. And it was kind of overwhelming, and I didn't want anybody to know, so I kept quiet and tried to hide. Lo and behold, as I find out as I got older, some things that I was hiding, I wasn't really hiding. And the person I was really hiding it from the most was myself. So let's go back to when I was a young kid. I shared a room with my sister. I come from a family of 5. I have a little brother. We grew up in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath rancher that was like 1,000 square feet. And my sister and I shared a bedroom from the time I was roughly a little over 2 years old until I think 16. And was a kid that did not sleep very well. Didn't sleep well at all. Had trouble going to sleep. And part of the reason why I had going to sleep is because I saw things when I was woken up in my sleep. I would see these scary images, really, really dark. They really instilled a lot of fear in me. And I also, they were like gargoyle-y figures, really ugly, scary things. Especially, I can't tell you when this started. I'm going to say probably around 6 or so, maybe a little bit before that. But I know by the time I was 8, it was really all-consuming. And so sometimes I would stay up really late because the closer I got to the sun coming up, the less that it would impact and bother my sleep. But the lack of sleep had caused lots of problems throughout my life. And one of them, it made it very hard to get up to go to school. I had so many headaches. Countless times. My mother would bring me to the doctor with another round of headaches, and they couldn't figure out what the headaches were coming from. And I didn't realize at the time how much this was actually impacting my sister and how much she saw what was going on, and I didn't even know because like I said, I didn't want to talk about it. So I didn't know until I got older how much it actually impacted her and how much she was aware of what was happening. I also felt a lot and knew a lot about things. And, I remember as a kid staying home from school from a headache and watching the television, and I think it was one of the spaceships, it might have been Challenger, they were putting a teacher on outer space. And I remember sitting there watching it, and I'm going, oh my God, this is going to explode. And sure enough, it did. And I was like, oh my God, I saw that in my dream a few nights ago, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. And I told absolutely no one because it totally freaked me out. So I had a lot of this when I was growing up, and I was really, 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 really afraid. And I also had a lot of not only feelings of other people things, but all these feelings that were inside me that I didn't understand. And I wasn't very comfortable. I wasn't somebody that liked to go out. Were interested, let's say, in boys. I couldn't understand that concept at all. I did like to go hang out with the boys, but like that was to play like G.I. Joes and Rumble Fumble and things like that. And anytime a boy would tell me like I couldn't do it, I'd be like, watch me. Really? And I would climb trees and ride bikes and, do all these sporty kind of things, even though I wasn't like the fastest kid in the world or anything, but I loved it and I enjoyed it, and that was kind of like my outlet. And I got very uncomfortable in a lot of like social environments, and I was very uncomfortable. Like I didn't want to go to any dances. I didn't want to date anybody. There was no interest. I never talked about boys or anything like that. I never wanted to go to my prom. And I remember having a discussion with my cousin, and she was like, you have to. And I was like, no, I don't. And so as I got older and moved through, out of high school, I've had people coming into my life who planted seeds, I'm going to say, because that's what it ended up being, planted seeds. And my mom and my sister introduced me to people that were psychic, that had a lot of the things that I had that I thought I was hiding, but I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And they knew that I knew things. They just didn't know maybe to what extent, but they knew. And so they try to match me up with people or introduce me to people that could help me along those ways. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to tap into my spiritual gifts. I don't want to understand what they are. I want nothing to do with this world. I don't want to do it. And I was very adamant about it. And then when I was about 24, my sister had come to me. I was living in Florida, and I came home for Christmas, and my sister said to me, when are you going to come out? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, when are you going to come out? And I'm like, come out of what? And she goes, that you're a lesbian, you're like girls. I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like, you never talk about guys. You never mention guys were cute. All growing up, you had no interest in anybody. I know you dated Mike, but I think you just dated him because you liked him and you felt it was the right thing to do, but I don't think that there was anything really there. And she goes, and look at the way you dress and act. She goes, when are you going to realize that? And I was like, I fought it. Just like my spiritual gifts, I fought it. And I was like, what are you talking about? No, that's not true. You'll meet my sister one day on here, I'm sure. But she's very persistent and she doesn't give up, and she's my little sister. And I came to realize that she was absolutely true. And I was really hiding that from myself. And that also scared the crap out of me. So, that's a whole nother journey that I would talk about. I am fully comfortable being a lesbian, being out, and appreciating that side of me. But I wanted to share that part of me because I always say I came out of two closets, one my spiritual closet and one my lesbian closet, because it's true, and we do open doors and come out a lot of closets, but like I came out to myself more than anybody else. I was hiding from myself more than anybody else. And the fear were fears that I told myself, not what other people have told me or instilled on me. And so I came out in around 25, somewhere around there. And I continued on my life and completely suppressing my spiritual gifts. I did get married, and about 5 years ago, my ex-wife left. And when she left, it was right in September. For any of you that know, around that time of year, the veil thins. It's the equinox, and the veil is naturally thin. On top of that, my defenses were down. I was very weak. I was really upset. All this stuff started to happen to me. My dreams were so intense. These feelings, these knowings, I would see these figures again. They were coming to me nonstop. I would see things, and things would happen to me during the day, not just at night. And I was like physically hurting. I went to see my chiropractor because my lower back was really bothering me. And she's like, you keep leaving your body. She's like, you do it in your sleep, and you do it when you're at work, because you don't want to be in your physical body. And you keep going and you keep leaving your physical body, and that's why you're having a lot of issues. And she's recommended that I get a smoky quartz. And I'm like, a smoky quartz? I knew it was a crystal, but I didn't know anything about smoky quartz. But she was like, smoky quartz, it will ground you. You need smoky quartz. So I called my sister and I said, where can I get a smoky quartz bracelet? Because I didn't want to carry a rock in my pocket. Literally, that was the thought of my head. Like, how am I going to carry around a rock in my pocket? Like, just give me a bracelet. It'll be easy. So she called up a friend of hers that worked with crystals and met up with her, was telling her about it. Needless to say, she didn't come back with a bracelet. She came back with a bunch of crystals, many different crystals, and gave them to me. And I had an instant connection. Maybe not, it was definitely not to the smoky quartz, but I had an instant connection. And I remember there was this one blue crystal, I think it was blue lace agate, and I would hold on to that, and my lower back would stop hurting me. And I realized that it was because that a lot of my lower back pain was based on my throat chakra. But I just remember holding on to them, feeling the difference with the crystals, and feeling how that they helped me. And I started diving into it. I went to a crystal show or to learn more about crystals at my sister's house. And I remember walking in, and I couldn't even be near the crystals. There were so many of them. I had to go to the far end of the room and hang out there because I couldn't be with them. And so I started to get crystals, and I started to work with crystals, but things were still really, really intense. And now we're coming into February, and things have gotten a little bit better, but things are still really intense, especially my dreams. I was in New York City for work, and I was woken up by this dream, and it was so intense. I felt like I was there. I was at the scene of an accident, and there was 3 kids involved, and 2 of the kids were dead at the scene, and one of the kids they medevaced away. And I freaked out because it felt so real. I felt like I was there. And the other part was that my sister was traveling back from Florida right around that time, and I didn't know exactly when it was. So I couldn't go back to sleep. I stayed up, and when it was a reasonable hour to reach out to my sister, I did, and she was all good and everything, and I held that in, and I kept that with me for the next couple of days. But as I was traveling back home on the bus, my sister had reached out because they had just gotten home, and I shared the story with her, and she's like, did you Google it? I was like, no, I didn't Google it. Why would I Google it? I wouldn't want to know if that was real. It felt so real, I don't even want to know. Well, let me just say, my curiosity got the best of me, because after that seed was planted, I couldn't get it out of my head. So I did Google it. Behold, in Texas, there was an accident, and 3 kids were involved, and it was exactly what I had said. And I was totally freaked out even more. And I said, that's it. I can't do this anymore. I need to know. I need to stop. I need to stop. And so, I started to listen to things and people started like, you're in control. You can stop this. You don't want this. You can stop this. So I started to do some things, and I started to do healing on myself, because the other part of this that I was going through was a lot of emotional stuff. People started telling me how happy I am, and I couldn't understand how they could say how happy I am. Like, what are you doing? You look great. You're so happy. And I'm like, I'm just leaving a 13-year relationship. Like, how am I happy? Like, I don't feel happy. And it was then that I started to realize that how unhappy I was. And I was like, wow, I was really not happy. And if people can see, even though I feel like I'm going through this huge emotional shift and have all this sadness, but they can see happiness in me, that's really huge. And it really shows me that I really need to heal and work on this, and that I don't want to go back to where I was. I want to move forward. And so I started to work on healing, learning about healing, doing some affirmations, changed my eating, did more physical exercise, did some energy work with my sister, who's a Reiki master and NLP coach. We started to do some healing. As I started to do this and really say that I don't want these gifts and things like that, they started to fade away. And they started to go away, and I didn't notice them as much. But the healing was going great. I was, healing big pieces in my heart, not just from that relationship, but from other things. Healing parts of me that I didn't even realize I needed healing. And then I felt like something was missing. I was like, I kind of miss my gifts, and I think I know that I want to learn more about them. I want to learn how I can tap into and trust my intuition more. I want to learn how to work with energy. So I started to get into Reiki and get attuned to Reiki and understand Reiki. And I started to, when I did it, it was like super crazy. I remember getting the attunement. My hands, I could feel them all instantly like activate. And, people had told me before this, sometimes you hear things in multiple times and then it sinks in, or, by the third time you're like, okay, I get it. I had like three people within like 2 weeks tell me that I should get into Reiki. I should, do energy healing and that. And so I did, because I was starting to listen to the intuition, the guidance that I was getting. Even though I wasn't quite there trusting it and understanding it, I started to listen to it. So when I did start with Reiki, and I was like, whoa, I could feel it through my hands. I could feel the heat. I could feel the cold. My hands moved like crazy. And then I had another little, like, let's call it a little bit setback here, because when I would start to practice it on people, I would get, whoa, you're so powerful. You're so powerful. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, am I going to hurt somebody? Literally, I thought I would hurt somebody. I was like, well, if I'm going to hurt people, this is not the point. This is not. And I'm like, relax, go into meditation, start practicing meditation, receive your guidance. And so I started to do that more and more, to the point where I got that my job that I had for 12 years wasn't very fulfilling. I didn't love it anymore, because the more I loved myself, the more I realized that I was not loved and appreciated for what I did there. It was an environment that was very negative and lower vibrational, And that's not the environment that I wanted to be in anymore, because the more that I did this work, the more I raised my vibration, the more love I brought in, and the more I wanted to be around that, and the less I wanted to be around a lower vibrational environment, making choices that I had to do for the good of the restaurant and not necessarily that was in line with my own self, my own integrity, my own higher being. I decided to quit that job and go out and start my own practice with being an energy artist, because my art is really huge with what I do, and a healer, and doing readings and mediumship. But at the same time, I was not still completely comfortable around all that, but I took the leap of faith. And I continued on my journey, and I continue to work in opening up my heart, tapping into my spiritual gifts. And in doing this work, I learned that I am the boss of my own energy. That if I can tell somebody no in the human world, I can tell somebody no in the spirit world. I learned that when you work in your highest good and you bring your highest good, you draw more of that in and less of the lower vibrational energies that I was picking up as a young kid, because the dark sees the light before the light sees the light. So I didn't see the light within me, but the spirits around did. That's why they came to me. And now I help people tap into their own gifts and understand their own gifts. And understand that sometimes when you're feeling something, it's not you. You're feeling somebody else. You know, you hear that word, I'm an empath a lot. And we are very empathic people. My empathic power was, so to speak, was to feel other people's physical pains. So I would think that I had a physical pain in my stomach and had stomach issues, and I would go to the doctors and get these tests, and I'd keep coming back and nothing was wrong. But when I learned about my own energy and my own psychic sensitivities, I realized that being an empath, I would feel somebody else's stomach ulcer or somebody else's stomach issues, and I would take those on as my own, not realizing it. And I help teach people now to understand their own energy so that they don't have to feel that. You can be an empath and still have an amazing life without going around feeling everything from everybody else. I help people. I hold space with love so that they can tap into their heart spinner. I help them understand their psychic senses. I help move through their energies with their guides and their spirit guides, and I help give them tools and techniques so that they can live a life filled with love and happiness and joy from their heart space, just like I have learned to live my life. And that is my mission. That is my purpose. To not only help people here on earth in our human form, but also to help earthbound spirits move forward also. Thank you guys very much for listening. I wanted to spend the first episode just kind of giving you a background of myself, and I assure you I will most likely dive in deeper to these certain areas of my life. But the biggest lesson I learned in my journey is that as much as I thought I was hiding from everybody else, the true person I was hiding from was my true soul. And when I actually was able to look at my soul, my true self, I realized that that's the person I wanted to be. And I wanted to stop hiding and start shining. And that's really what I want people to help people with, is to live in their hearts, to shine their light bright. Because the more that we shine our light bright, the more the earth, this world, will shine brighter. And that's how we help heal the world and help make this world a better place by starting with ourselves. So that's what this podcast and my journey is about. I hope you join me next week for next week's podcast. Until then, you can check me out on Instagram at Intuitive Heart Healer. On Facebook, I have an amazing Facebook group called Intuitive Heart Healer, where I do daily guidance, meditations, and things in that group. It's a great group for you to check out. You can check out my website at intuitivehearthealer.com. Go out and spread the love today. Shine your light and make the world a better place.